Hello, world. Welcome to another episode of the Podcast Monitor. This time, we have now finished in the last episode the parsing part of the feed parser. And so now that we have the request module, the feed or the parsing module, we can go ahead and start working on this last step of packaging the episodes all together and essentially putting together all the things that we did last time. So let's get started, and we will mark this one now as in progress. And we will come down here. So now we need to do this package portion. Now this package portion is going to sit in the feed parser. So we basically need to create the feed parser. We have the requester, we have the parser, so we can do step one, make a request, get the result, come back. We can then do the conversion, so we can turn it into a dictionary, and then these episodes take the dictionaries. So we have that information, and then we can put it into the feed. So we're basically doing this package step, which is going to take the conversion portion, apply to the episode, and put everything into the feed, and then it will have the output, which will be all the stuff that's in there. So straightforward enough. We can get rid of, let's close all these out for now. The one thing that will be interesting to look at is the stub, right? Because basically we're going to parse this. We're going to end up getting 3 episodes back. And so this is what we're going to end up using for the test, because we're going to use this. We're going to use the real parser to turn this into stuff, and that's what we're going to end up using there. So from here, let's create the feed parser.py and the feed parser unit test.py. I guess the other thing we can actually do, so right now that we end up using this, and we decided that really the reason that we don't need the fake here is because this isn't doing anything we're super concerned about. So we're going to actually rename this one from functional test into a unit test. We only have the functional test for the RSS requester. So let's come over here, status. So we will add the RSS parser unit test, and I think we'll have to get add RSS parser functional test. I'm gonna have to type it all out. RSS parser underscore functional test.py. Okay, so now if we look at the status here, we've done the rename. So then we have so let's just commit this first. And so we'll just not commit the work tracker yet. And then updated parser from parser tests from FT to UT. All right, so now we will close out. We'll leave the parser test. We don't need this one. All right, cool. So start with class feed parser. That we might end up, as we're going along and creating this, we might end up making some alterations. There's a few things I've thought about with the parser and the requester, but when we get there, we'll kind of see how it plays out, and if we want to make adjustments to the way we kind of pass in the data, or the way we pass in like the URL and stuff. So we'll kind of see that as we go here. But for now, so let's just create that here. So And we'll we'll just have a def get episodes. So we'll just have that boilerplate there for now, and let's do import unit test from feed parser, import feed parser, class parser test. Tests. What have we been doing for these things? Test. I guess we also want to remove this here. Unit test case. Unit test case. Setup. Def tear down cell. Def test. And if name equals main test.main. All right. So okay. So let's actually I want to clean up the modification in the RSS parser unit test. So let's go reset head. I'm going to do git add RSS parser unit test, functional test. And then we have this, and we also have the edit here. It's just baked into the rename. Let's check that out. GIF, diff, staged. Yeah. So just has that change there. So that's cool. Keep it compact, and then let's come back and we'll just find the commit. All right. So we'll do git add and then git commit -m starting RSS parser task created skeleton. Okay. So now this is kind of the usual process that we've been going through in the past. So if we're looking at this packaging here, right? So we what is it that we should kind of be testing? So essentially we don't need to worry too much about the metadata that we're giving it. We might end up wanting to update the requester, the stub. Well, I guess the URL is coming in from there. So we want to test a bad input, right? So that could be one thing we test. So let's just make some comments right now. Testing or test bad input. The metadata because we're just passing the URL to the requester. Now here's the thing, I guess. So this is kind of an interesting thing, right? So we're creating this as input here, but the requester, well, part of the feed parser class, we want to allow for a fake. So there's two ways we can do it. We could pass it in, or we could allow for a replacement. Right, and so one is passing into the constructor, and then the other one says that, oh, okay, so it's set up with the requester on the inside of it, and then we will instead during the test have a method that allows us to replace it. I think it's generally cleaner to pass it in. So we almost kind of want to make an update here. Let's see, the reason I don't like that is because I want the feed parser to do... I don't want the requester to do... I kind of want the feed parser to be this class. So I kind of want it to generate it. So I think we'll end up continuing to do this because I want it to be the one that kind of goes and cracks open the metadata. I mean, the thing we could do is we could move the requester out here, right? The metadata goes into that, but then you also need to pass the metadata into the parser. So something has to kind of contain it to do as they're being passed around. And so I kind of want it to be a component of the feed parser. Even though that requires the feed parser to kind of know about the requester, but so then we have the parser here. So we're gonna input. Now we're already testing the requester and the parser. So if something fails in the request, the requester should be handling it, and the parser should kind of be handling it. So if we look at the requester functional test, right? We're testing incorrect URL or no URL, and in those cases, the expected result here is that we get back information. This one is that we actually throw an error. And then the parser, so if we get back bad information, also in this case, right, like if it's nothing, but in the other one it is something. So a data that's kind of getting past the parser. So there are a couple things in here, but those will each fail. So we don't need to worry about testing those for this. So I guess the main thing then is and we're testing this, so I guess we could test like if we get bad info when we put it into here. So kind of we get tests incorrect data from parser throws an error in the dictionary, in the validated dictionary we have. But I mean, those are kind of minor things. The main thing we want to test is packaged information returned. Now here's the thing, if we're passing in the metadata, we really don't need to worry because the metadata is actually doing this validation, right? It's already saying that it has the URL, which is really what we care about, and then it has the type, and then everything here is right. So we don't need to test this. We also don't really need to test this because we know that this will throw an error, right, if we get information back. So really here, this is kind of that one thing where we really just need to test, hey, this works, which is kind of nice, right, because we tested everything else first. So let's come in here and say test getting packaged data. Okay. And how are we going to test that? So basically, if we use this, so we're going to create a metadata, pass it in, and then we should get back as an output. I guess technically this line is pointing the wrong one, right? The package into feed, and that should get outputted to the filter. So actually, I'm just going to change this diagram real quick. So what was this? This was filter C2, output from S2, it should be from S3. All right, because this is actually what we want. We want the feed to then package into a feed, and that gets outputted. Okay, cool. So, is that our inputs and our outputs? All right, so we're going to need to, from feed metadata, import a feed metadata, from feed, import feed. And metadata is equal to feed metadata, and that takes a dictionary of data. In this case, the dictionary of data isn't going to matter, right? Because we're not actually. So okay, so that's the other thing, right? So because the requester doesn't actually care about the URL it gets, it just returns data. Do we care about if we pass in if we pass in this, right, or we pass in something else? No, because really it just then comes down to like parsers and stuff not working. So right, if this is kind of off, we're not necessarily have a test for that, but that's okay for now, I think. So let's just take this one as the one that's going to be used anyway. And so we'll say, dictionary. So let's just, we'll just add it straight in. Yes. Close it there. Okay, so that's the metadata. And then expected is equal to a feed. Now a feed takes a dictionary, and that dictionary should have a metadata and an episode, right? So I guess what we could say, so I guess we could pull this out. We could say d metadata is equal to this. And then this is d metadata. This is gonna be a dictionary. This is gonna have where were we at? The feed. So this is going to have a metadata and an episodes, and the episodes is going to be a list. So we'll say metadata actually no, this should be, this actually isn't a dictionary, this is actually the metadata. So you know what, screw it, I'm going to come back and I'm going to put this back in here. Just rewind everything, get rid of this, and this is going to be another dictionary, metadata. And everything, by the way, is right copied, so, well, guess that's not copied. But I don't think that can be, but we can't really change that. It's fine. Let's not get too over the top of it. And then we need a list of episodes. Episodes are of, it's a list and everything in there should be of the type episode. So we're going to need to create the episodes. Right, so episode similarly takes a dictionary with title. So let's go to the episode unit test. So we have this episode data, goes into the episode. So we'll come in here and we'll say episodes is a list. And in that list, so we're also going to need from, I'm going to move this up here. And from episode import episode. And so this here, we're going to have episode and this information so it looks like this actually, right, does do the conversion, so we're probably going to have to make other changes to the parser to do conversions is what it's kind of looking like. So we're going to need to end up kind of going back and making some changes and stuff, but that's perfectly fine. So let's come in here, at least for now, come down. We'll also need to, from datetime import datetime as DT. Alright. And then actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and get rid of that. Put a space there. I'm going to take this and use that instead of this. Instead of this, get rid of that one. Alright, and now we need to come into the stub and take this information, which so we don't use this anywhere, right? Because here we're checking the actual one. Does this one use the? This one does use the stub. Oh, so we do actually. We do have this information here. So right, we're gonna have to end up changing this. Are there 4 episodes? I thought there were 3. All right, switch this up for a second. Oh, okay. Oh, this long one's also an episode. Okay. So come back into the test, and we will put this here. All right, and so yeah, so we're gonna have to do some changes because episode here expects these of a date time and of an int, but the actual parser, so this is when we were doing the parser, we should have done it slightly differently, is where what it actually returns is this. So, I mean, the parser might as well convert these into all the right types instead of returning the dictionary. There's no point in having like an intermediate step, but that's pretty simple. Like converting these strings to ints is simple, and converting this to a datetime will be pretty simple. In fact, did we? No, so we just created them here. So, but that'll be straightforward to do. So let's come to back into here, and we got all 4. Now we need the parser unit test, where we have this information. We'll come back, paste this down here. And so I guess I might as well just replace these, and I'll just make a comment about the type, because it's still the same description, pub date, second. so here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to reformat these. Alright, and then in here, we'll say this line, this one, this one, this one. I'm going to do episode, open this up, there, update these spacings, and then come back to the end here. And this last one, fix that. All right, so all that's good, and that now needs to go in here, in this list. Paste it up in here. And then let's indent all of this. All right, and then we'll close it there. Cool. So that should all be good. DT int DT So now if we run this, it should actually fail on the validation of this, right? Because that's just wrong. So if we do this, we'll do Python feed parser. Yeah, so we got a key error for the publishing date. Int validate pub date equals pub date, and then so if we come in here, let's just kind of look at this. So if we come in here, it's line 9. Line 19. Oh, this is actually pub data. So this should be date. This should be date. This should be date. This should be date. And see, now we get the type error. So that's actually also means that if we come back into the come back into the parser, these are all wrong. All these pub datas should be pub dates. And I think since we didn't use it, looks like we didn't use it for this. So that's the other thing, right? So this information, and I guess then we could say that this information we want converted into an integer as well. But so that means this here, pub data, should be pub date, which is what this is. So let's, now that we did that, let's run this real quick. Python RSS parser unit test, and it still passes. Cool. Okay. And now this is failing on these, so because we need to basically convert these, but we're also going to need to then convert the other ones. So anyway, then what we're going to do is we're going to say feed parser parser dot get episodes expected self dot start equal name add inputs. Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna have to make a bunch of changes here to kind of all this stuff, but that's at least like the general framework where we're doing it, and we know some of the changes and stuff we have to make. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to commit the changes we made to the RSS parser. So git add RSS parser. So we have this, if we check out the diff here, we'll see we corrected it to pub date everywhere, as well as here where it's created and then everything tested out right. So that's all pretty good. So we'll say git commit -m corrected parser key from pub data to pub date. The other thing we have is git diff work tracker, and that was just git commit git add work tracker, git commit -m updated work tracker diagram to indicate the proper output of the feed parser. All right, and then we just have the feed parser unit tests. So this here, right, we look at that, we added in a bunch of the stuff. And we'll say added main added test body, some corrections required, indicated by comments. Okay. Check the log. Okay. So the other thing, right, is so we're going to go back, we're going to make some changes, and we'll use the test, and so it should make it fairly easy to kind of do. This is kind of where it would be nice if we had done the unit test runner. Because then we would just be able to run one single thing the entire time and make sure all the tests pass all the time. But honestly, not too big a deal. What we will do before the episode filter, though. But yeah, so for now, I'm going to end up leaving it here. But we're going to end up coming back and doing... in the next part, we're going to come back and kind of clean up some of those other things, and then continue to kind of throw everything together. So let's tag this as, I need to update, I'm just gonna edit the title live. All right, so this is 19 we're on now. I guess it's XIX. All right, so this is episode 19. And we're going to continue next time with this packaging. But until then, see ya.